Welcome to my video on ordering numbers in scientific notation. So in the previous day's lesson, we looked at comparing numbers written in scientific notation. And so now we're going to use our knowledge of comparing numbers in scientific notation to order 3 or more numbers written in scientific notation. So look at this first set of numbers written in scientific notation, and what do you notice about the following set of numbers? Good, they all have the same exponent. All have the same exponent. So the strategy I use when they all have the same exponent is to line them up. So I'm going to go over here and line up the coefficient, or we also call it the root number. So I'm going to go right about here and line them up. So 6 2300ths, 6 3/10, and we can drop in a 0. 6 300ths, whoops, and 6 2/10, and I can drop in a 0. So now as we look at these, we can see they all begin with a 6. So we have 2300ths, 3000ths, 300ths, and 2000ths. So this is the smallest, so put a 1 there. This would go second, so put a 2. Third, and fourth. Now, when you do these on your classwork or tests or even our notes or anything, we always rewrite it. This is not an acceptable answer. So we're going to rewrite. So we have 6 300ths times 10 to the negative 5th. Next, we have 6 2/10 times 10 to the negative 5th. Now I know I changed it to 2000ths, but we always write what the original was, not what I changed it to. Then we would have 6 2300ths times 10 to the negative 5th. And last but not least, we have 6 3/10 times 10 to the negative 5th. Okay, look at the next set of numbers. And what do you notice about this set? Good. They all have different exponents. So they all have different exponents. So if they all have different exponents, then all we need to do is look at the exponent to determine which one's the smallest and which one's the greatest. But remember, this only works when they're all written in scientific notation, and of course all of these are. So 5, -6, -5, or 6, which one's the smallest? Good, -6, so I'm going to put a 1 there. What's the next smallest? 5, -5, or 6? Good, -5. What's smaller, 5 or 6? Good, 5. And then, of course, this one would go last. So now I'm just going to rewrite them in the correct order. So 4 273,000ths times 10 to the negative 6. 4 5/10ths times 10 to the negative 5th. 4 7500ths times 10 to the 5th. And last, 4 7500ths times 10 to the 6th. Okay, once you have that down, please look at the next page. Okay, now we're going to practice ordering from least to greatest. Okay, so look at this first example, and we notice that they all have the same exponent. Okay, they all have an exponent of 8. So what I'm going to do is line up the coefficient or the root number. I'm going to figure out which one's the greatest and which one's the least. Okay, I can drop a 0 here to compare. Now I can clearly see 1 in 1200ths is the smallest, so put a 1. 1 in 1900ths is the next smallest, and 1 in 2000ths is the largest. So now don't forget to rewrite it in the correct order. So 1 in 1200ths times 10 to the 8th. 1 in 1900ths times 10 to the 8th. And 1 in 2/10ths times 10 to the 8th. Okay, look at example number 2. Notice all the exponents are the same, so once again I'm going to line them up. So 6 and 8/10ths, 6 and 900ths, and I can go back and add a 0 here, and 6 and 7800ths. So now you can clearly see 6 and 900ths is the smallest, followed by 6 and 7800ths, and 6 and 8000ths. So don't forget, rewrite it in the correct order. So 6 and 900ths times 10 to the negative 5th. 6 and 7800ths times 10 to the negative 5th. And last, 6 and 8/10ths times 10 to the negative 5th. Okay, look at example number 3. They are all different exponents, 12, 11, and 10. So which one is the smallest? Good, put a 1. Which one would come next? Good, 11, so put a 2. And last, put a 3. Okay, so we would go 5 and 7/10ths times 10 to the 10th. 9 and 6600ths times 10 to the 11th. And 5 and 7600ths times 10 to the 12th. Okay, look at example number 4. They are all different exponents. We have -6, -5, and -8. So which one is the smallest? Good. -8. Remember, the farther it is away from 0, the smaller it is. So which one would come next? Good, -6. And last, -5. Now don't forget to rewrite it in the order. So we're going to start with 4 and 8/10ths times 10 to the negative 8. 4 and 8/10ths times 10 to the negative 6. And last, 4 and 8/10ths times 10 to the negative 5th. Okay, we have 2 more examples. Let's look at the 2 at the bottom, 5 and 6. So number 5, they are not all different this time. So I got to find the smallest one, so -15. So we have a tie. So I'm going to line up 9 and 9/10ths and 7 and 6/10ths. Now which one's smaller, 9 and 9/10ths or 7 and 6/10ths? Good, this one's smaller, followed by this one. Okay, so I would write 7 and 6/10ths times 10 to the negative 15th. 9 and 9/10ths times 10 to the negative 15th. And then, of course, the only one that's left is 1 and 100th times 10 to the negative 14th. Okay, last example. Okay, this time they are not all different. So let's find the smallest first, so -23. Okay, so we're going to put that one first. Now, I have a tie here, so I'm going to need to line these up. So let's line them up over here, 5 and 7200ths and 5 and 8/10ths, so drop a 0. Which one's smaller, 5 and 7200ths or 5 and 8000ths? Good, this one's smaller. So I'm going to put a 2 here and a 3 right here. Okay, now let me put these in order, and then we are all done. 6 and 83 hundredths times 10 to the negative 23rd. 5 and 72 hundredths times 10 to the 23rd. And 5 and 8 tenths times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, that concludes our notes on ordering numbers written in scientific notation. I hope you have a great day.